Anthony, can I have a motion to reconvene the public session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Whittington. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're back in public session. We're starting at section 4, routine business. We have the board secretary's report for July 2021, the treasurer's report for July 2021, the budget receipt transfers for July 2021, the monthly transfer report as of September 28th, 2021, the high school activities report for August 2021, the certified bill list for August 26th through August 31st of 2021, and September 1st through September 16th of 2021. Is the approval of minutes for business meeting August 31st, 2021, and executive session for August 31st, 2021. Mr. Bromhall, can I have a motion to approve section 4, routine business, letters A through H?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Turner. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mrs. Quinn?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, except I abstain from 4H approval of minutes, August 31st, regular and confidential.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Moving on to section 5, routine matters. Letter A, enrollment report for September 27, 2021. The fire alarm report, the HIB report, and the superintendent's monthly report. Mr. Capello.
Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater. Hopefully everybody can hear me. A little bit of feedback from last month's meeting was a little bit harder to hear, so thank you to Mr. Belsky for providing a PA system on top of our regular amplification system. Thank you to the members of the public who are joining us here this evening. This is technically our first Board of Education meeting since the opening of schools, an opening that I wish to report to be extremely successful, much in thanks to the work of our principals, our administrators, our teachers, our very cooperative families, and I'd especially like to point out the work of Mr. Tyndall and his operations staff and Ms. Joanne Tomkowitz and our transportation team. This is back to school night season as well. We are taking a different spin on it this year. As our parents in the audience know, we are doing that virtually again this year. We have already had our back to school night events be successful at the middle school and the Eleanor Rush School, and coming up this week, we have our events at the high school and the New Albany School. One quick addition to our district that I wanted to mention as a part of my comments this evening. I don't know if any members of the public or even members of the board had an opportunity to check out the live stream of this past Friday's football game. Thank you to Jay Miley, Mr. Steve Creel, who made it possible so that we can now stream live events from Cinnaminson High School Stadium, and not just football events. This includes any home games that happen there, events with our marching band and our cheerleaders. We'll now have access for the public to be able to see the events that are happening in our stadium, something that became very popular last year at the height of COVID. Whenever we were having events and could not have our spectators there, the expectation and the desire to be able to live stream from these events certainly proved to be something that was popular with the community, so we were very happy to have that happen. Particularly last Friday night, we were able to celebrate during halftime a special event, the 30th anniversary of the 91 undefeated championship team, and thank you to Ms. Kim Kelly for putting together an event to celebrate that. As members of our public may or may not know, Cinnaminson has not been immune to some of the labor shortages in transportation. We appreciate and value all of our parents who have been supportive and flexible as our transportation department is trying to work now with, well, school back to normal, increased enrollment, and a little bit of a tax on our labor. So we appreciate your patience, we appreciate your cooperation, and just so members of the public know, we are working to try to address that, including some action happening tonight to ensure that we're able to provide all of the extracurricular opportunities that our families have come to enjoy and that our students have come to enjoy. So we have some measures that will be taking place in action later tonight to encourage and hopefully help recruit some drivers to our transportation departments. And finally, last of my remarks tonight, I'd like to commend, as we reopen and get back to business as usual, one of the great events we were able to host once again, the Relay for Life, back at Cinnaminson High School in partnership between the district and the American Cancer Society. I'd like to recognize Camera Rescue and the work of all of our faculty members who helped support that successful event, raising nearly $20,000. So that said, Mr. Fitzwater, that is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mrs. Whittington, can I have a motion to approve section 5, letters A through F?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Trompe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Bromhall?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Moving on to Section 6, the Student Representatives Report, and we have Allie Neidhart from the high school.
The students of the month for September choices are due on Wednesday and will be reported at the October board meeting. Congrats to the newly elected class of 2025 officers: President Bobby Preston, Vice President Madden Rittler, Secretary Tim O'Connor, Treasurer Kellen Kohler, Historian Ava Barbich, and Student Council Liaison Ava Quinn. Fall sports teams have started their season. Football: the captains are Patrick Egan, Jay Connor, Jack Zarnowski, and Isaiah Ruiz. The football team's record is 0-4. Their next game is senior night on Friday against Camden Catholic. Boys soccer: the captains are Sean Kennedy, Colin Kenville, and Nate Wyke. The current record is 6-0, and their next game is Wednesday at home. Girls soccer: the captains are Kelly Teague, Emma Fugel, and Carly Yeager. Their record is 7-1. Senior night is October 28th. Field hockey: the captains are Abby LePage, Miana Alessandroni, and Claudia Massiantonio. Their current record is 6-2-1. Next game is Thursday against Audubon. Senior night is October 9th. Girls tennis: the captains are Emma Schreier and Laura Sickler. The record is 0-7. The senior night is Monday, October 4th. Boys cross country: their record is 10-0. Girls cross country: the captain is Grace Kohler and they are undefeated. Senior night is October 12th. Girls volleyball: the captains are Micaiah Blaman and Rosemary O'Brien. The record is 3-5. The next match is Thursday against STEM. Senior night is October 7th. Student Council: Homecoming 2021 planning is underway. The theme is CHS Homecoming 2021, now showing movie genres. The seniors have chosen horror/thriller. Juniors have chosen action/sci-fi. The sophomores have chosen fantasy. The freshmen have chosen comedy. Homecoming begins with hall decorating on Sunday, October 10th. Spirit Week is Monday, October 11th to Friday, October 15th. The Homecoming pep rally and games are on Friday, October 15th, and the dance is on October 16th in the courtyard. Interact: the Interact Club participated in an event at the Calvary Presbyterian Church in Riverton on Sunday, September 26th. 22 of our students volunteered their time to make pine cone bird feeders and stuffed treat bags for animals that will be given out after a church service at the annual blessing of the animals on Feast Day of St. Francis of Assisi. Our students also cleaned up and weeded the garden beds, lawn, and shed on the church grounds. National Honor Society: NHS has assisted with the start of the new school year by escorting new students and freshmen in the building. Band: congrats to our Cinnaminson marching band for defending their title on Saturday night, September 18th, by finishing in first place at the Springford Cavalcade of Bands competition. With a score of 77.9, the band finished at the top of the Independence group of 6 bands. The band also won Best Overall Effect and Best Music. Senior soloists Connor Deeney and Bria Petrello received special recognition from the adjudicators during critique. The band will be competing next at Plymouth Whitemarsh High School on October 2nd. Excellent work, band. Chorus: the CHS Chamber Choir has started rehearsals and is very excited to be singing together again.
All right. Thank you, Allie.
Thank you, Allie. We're going to move on. Any comments or questions for Allie? That was a little hard to hear until the very end.
Thank
We
you
need
for
to
the
fix-
audio assist,
We
Mr.
need to
Belsky.
fix the audio.
Allie, are the students excited for the return of homecoming?
Very excited.
Very excited, good. We're very excited as well. Thank you, Mr. Gorman, and your team for helping to make that happen.
We're going to move to Section 7, presentation. Mr. Capello.
Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater. It is my responsibility biannually to present to the board and the public the Student Safety Data System reports. We did this about 6 months ago on the reporting period from the first half of last year, and I'll be reporting this evening on the second half of the last school year. As you can imagine, these numbers may have some impact due to the pandemic and the nature of the second half of the school year last year, but I will briefly review what is some very favorable data. On the first page of the report, board members can see the total number of incidents listed at each school. As you looked on the second half, we're talking the second reporting period, that's January 1st through the end of the school year. 9 incidents at the high school, 4 at the middle school, 0 at New Albany, and 1 at the Rush School. Probably the chart that we rely on most when we're evaluating our incidents in the student safety data system is our year over year, and that information is on page 2. So we see on the top there the 2020 incidents, and on the bottom the 2019-20. Again, these are for the same report periods. And I can summarize that rather quickly by going to the bottom left number of total incidents district-wide of 12 in the second half of the 2021 school year versus 23 the year prior. I can tell you our kids are back in school now 100%. We hope to maintain this low number of incidents, but we don't want to be ignorant to the fact that obviously there were some interruptions in the school year last year that may have some impact and skew these numbers. Moving right along, the third page deals with HIB trainings and programs. So despite the fact that we had some interruptions to last year, you'll notice that the district held 19 trainings and 13 programs, and that is juxtaposed against the 19-20 HIB trainings and programs where there were 13 and 10 respectively, so an uptick in the number of trainings and programs that were offered. The next 4 pages essentially list the numbers by school in terms of programs, so those were summarized on page 1. And again, this was for the report period last year, January 1st through the end of the year. So we have incidents that would be considered violence, vandalism, substance weapons, and HIB confirmed at the high school of 9. Other incidents leading to removal of 4. HIBs alleged, those are different than HIB confirmed, of 0, 7 trainings, and 9 programs. Moving right along to the middle school, 4 incidents that will be classified as violence, vandalism, substance abuse, weapons, or HIBs confirmed of 4. Other incidents leading to removal 2, HIB alleged 4. HIB trainings 8, and programs 9. The Elemental Rush School, 1 incident that would fall into the category of violence, vandalism, substance abuse, weapon, and HIB confirmed. Other incidents leading to removal was 1, 2 HIB alleged, and 21 HIB trainings and 10 programs. Finally, at the New Albany School, 0 qualified incidents of violence, vandalism, substance abuse, weapons, and HIB confirmed. 0 other incidents leading to removal, 0 HIB alleged, 15 HIB trainings, and 0 programs. And finally, at the end, we see report period 1, report period 2 listed out. So you get a snapshot picture of where we were as a district during the last school year. And then again, those numbers totaled up at the bottom as a summary from the first page. So again, we are aware that last year may prove to be, I don't know if an anomaly is the right word for it, but definitely impacted by the status of our schools last year and the number of students who participated in the program virtually. But we are generally very pleased with those numbers anytime we see a reduction. So I respectfully submit that report to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Capillo. Moving on to Section 8, correspondence to the board. Anyone have anything that they received? Okay, we're going on to Section 9, committee reports. This month we had a policy committee meeting. Mr. Gaffney will give us a brief rundown of that meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater. The Policy and Legislation Committee met on Thursday night, September 23rd, by way of Google Meet. The committee discussed updates to current policies and proposed revisions to policies as a result of updated legislation and statutory language. Revised policies are included for adoption on the first reading on tonight's agenda. The committee also reviewed several policies that our policy agency, Strauss-Esme, has deemed ready for abolishment. Likewise, the committee is recommending a change to the board's bylaw 0131 that will allow for the abolishment of outdated policies with only 1 reading before the full board. And also the agenda this evening is an update to the Pirate Path Forward to reflect minor changes and revisions addressing staff and student travel and quarantine exception periods. And we will be meeting again shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Gaffney. Mrs. Trompe, can I have a motion to approve Section 9 committee reports, letter A?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Whittington. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Bromhall?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Moving on to number 10, public comments on any items appearing on the agenda. move on to Section 11, Personnel Certificated. Mr. Capello.
Okay, thank you again, Mrs. Fitzwater. I'm under Section 11, Personnel Certificated. Under letter A, we have none. Under letter B, Appointments, Reappointments. Seeking the board to approve the appointment of Shannon Morris, long-term substitute teacher for PE at the high school, effective retroactively to September 13th till on or about December 1st, 2021. Under number 2, seeking the board to approve board secretary business administrator contract as reviewed and approved by the Burlington County Superintendent of Schools, effective January 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2022. And number 3, seeking the board to approve the appointment of Sean Riley, long-term substitute teacher for music at the middle school, effective October 11th, 2021 through on or about April 22nd. Under letter C, overload, seeking the board to ratify and affirm Valerie Lamb for an overage for ELL for the middle school, and that is retroactive to September 1st till on or about November 1st. Under letter D, seeking the board to approve the sidebar agreement between the Cinnaminson Board of Education and the Cinnaminson Education Association to amend the collective bargaining agreement. Under letter E, transfers and class moves, seeking the board to ratify and affirm transfers of classrooms and buildings for the following staff effective retroactive to July 1st, 2021. Those names, reasons, and hours are listed in the agenda. Under letter F, seeking the board to approve the following certificated staff members to advance on the S1 salary guide. Those names, their respective steps, and increases are listed in the agenda. Under letter G, extra duty appointments, seeking the board to approve Colleen Harding to update the Dance K2 curriculum. Under number 2, seeking the board to ratify and affirm Kelsey Rello's previously approved 3 summer days and change to 2 summer days, and Jenny Perno to be approved for 1 additional summer day. Number 3, seeking the board to approve Sue Siegler, CST, be paid for 3 additional summer days of work performed in the summer doing evaluations for new students. Number 4, seeking the board to approve Nick DeSalvio and Rob Spear to be co-advisors of the new esports club at Cinnaminson Middle School. Number 5, seeking the board to approve Bethany Nelson, supervisor of special services, for 7 additional summer days. Number 6, seeking the board to approve Chelsea Derry, speech therapist, for 1 additional summer day. Under number 7, seeking the board to approve the staff listed for the following enrichments for one-to-one tutoring, home instruction, quarantine, and that to be paid for by Title I and or ARP ESSER federal funds. Those names are listed in the agenda by either after-school enrichment or one-to-one tutoring list. Under number 8, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the following staff for 1 hour of training to be a delegate. And this delegate training took place September 15th, 2021. Those names are listed under number 8 in the agenda. Number 9, seeking the board to approve Dean DeGrazio as intramurals head coach at the middle school. And number 10, seeking the board to approve the extra duty assignments for the 2021-22 school year as attached. Under letter H, leave of absences, seeking the board to approve the leave of absences that are listed in the agenda by employee number under letter H. Under letter I, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the resignation for personal reasons of Edmund Fleming from the position of permanent substitute teacher number 3 at the Eleanor Rush School. Under number 2, seeking the board to approve Jacqueline Berg as permanent substitute teacher number 2 at the New Albany School, retroactive September 9th through October 24th. Under number 3, seeking the board to approve Patricia Trish Davis as permanent substitute teacher number 3 at the Rush School, effective October 4th. Under number 4, seeking the board to approve the reappointment and appointment of the following substitute teachers to be called on an as-needed basis for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. Those names are listed under number 4 in the agenda. Letter J, tutors, seeking the board to approve the following tutors to be called on an as-needed basis for the 21-22 school year. Those names are listed in the agenda under letter J. No student teachers. Under letter L, mentor teachers, seeking the board to approve the mentor teachers for the provisional teachers listed for the 21-22 school year. Their respective school provisional teacher and mentor teacher are listed in the agenda. Under number 2, seeking the board to approve the mentor teachers for the provisional teacher listed for October through April, and that is listed in the agenda under number 2. And under number 3, seeking the board to approve the mentor teachers for the provisional teachers listed for September through April, and that is listed under number 3 in the agenda. Mrs. Fitzwater, that is certificated staff.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. And Mrs. Turner, can I have a motion to approve personnel certificated letters A through L?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Trompe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mrs. Quinn?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Moving on to section 12, personnel non-certificated, and back to Mr. Capello.
Thank you again, Mrs. Fitzwater. Under under non-certificated staff, 12, letter A, resignation and retirement, seeking the board to accept the resignation for personal reasons of Jamie Jones, special education ABA tech at the New Albany School. Under number 2, seeking the board to accept the resignation for personal reasons of Denise Vanderwell, special education aide ABA tech at the New Albany School. No leaves of absences under B. C, under appointments and reappointments, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the appointment of the following Student Activities Center SAC General Aides at the Memorial School, retroactive to September 9th, 2021, and those 3 names are listed in the agenda. Under number 2, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the appointment of Jeanette Nickel to the position of cafeteria playground aide at the Rush School, retroactive to September 9th, 2021 for 2.5 hours a day. Under number 3, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the appointment of Amanda Putz to the position of special education aide ABA Tech at the New Albany School, retroactive to September 9th, 2021, 6.75 hours a day. Under number 4, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the appointment of Susan Watkins to the position of cafeteria playground aide at the Rush School, retroactive to September 16th, 2021, 2.5 hours a day. Under number 5, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the increase of the hourly rate of Doreen Minton, SAC General Aide at the Memorial School. Under number 6, seeking the board to approve the appointment of Jarrett Thomas to the position of full-time plumber operations department, 7.5 hours daily, effective October 1st, 2021, for the remainder of the school year. Under number 7, seeking the board to approve the temporary salary adjustment for an emergent bus driver route rate for after-school curricular and co-curricular runs to the rate of $35 per hour, effective September 28th, 2021, through the end of the trial period on January 1st, 2022. Under letter D, extra duty, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the request of Tracy Walker, part-time sub at the Memorial School, to work 20 additional hours retroactive September 13th through 30th. Number 2, seeking the board to approve the request of the following special education aides to work with their designated students while attending various after-school activities, and their names, hours, and activities are listed under number 2 in the agenda. Number 3, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the request for the following cafeteria and playground aides retroactive to September 9th to work 1 additional hour to attend an instructional meeting, and those names are listed under number 3 in the agenda. Under number 4, seeking the board to approve the request for Vicky Borcher, special education aide ABA Tech at the Rush School, to conduct parent training with the parents of a classified student for a maximum of 5 hours per week, effective October 1st, 2021 through May 31st, 2022. Under letter E, transfers, seeking the board to approve the transfer of Maya to Case K, special education aide, from the high school to the middle school, effective September 7th. And under number 2, seeking the board to approve the transfer of Mark Haller, special education ABA Tech, from the Rush School to the New Albany School, effective September 7th. Under letter F, job description, seeking the board to approve the job description listed as attached, and that is for Assistant Transportation Coordinator, job description T-1A. Under letter G, substitute volunteers, seeking the board to approve the reappointment of Kimberly Horowitz and Jennifer Samoji as substitute teacher aides to be called on an as-needed basis for the 21-22 school year. For number 2, seeking the board to approve Robert Brown, the substitute school bus driver, to be called on an as-needed basis for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. And under number 3, seeking the board to approve Aubrey Campbell, a student activity center substitute aide, to be called on an as-needed basis for the 21-22 school year. And Mrs. Fitzwater, that is personnel non-certificated.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mr. Kenny, can I have a motion to approve Section 12 personnel non-certificated, letters A through G?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Whittington. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mrs. Quinn?
Aye. 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 Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Moving on to Section 13, curriculum and instruction. Dr. Goldberg.
Thank you. Under 13, letter A, requesting board approval of the professional development requests that are attached. Under letter B, requesting board approval of the field trip requests that are attached. Under letter C, there are none. Under letter D, requesting board approval of updates to the science curriculum K-12 to align with the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. Under letter E, grants, requesting approval of the submission of the final ESEA expenditure report for the 2020-21 school year. And lastly, letter F, requesting board approval of the district's submission of its emergency remote instruction plan to the NJDOE as required by Public Law 2020, Chapter 27, and would request approval of those items.
Thank you, Dr. Goldberg. Mr. Gaffney, can I have a motion to approve Section 13, curriculum and instruction, letters A through F?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Bromhall?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Going on to Section 14, special education. Mrs. Llewellyn.
Thank you. Under letter A, contracts, requesting that the board approve 3 contracts with the New Jersey Commission of the Blind and Visually Impaired to provide services from September 1st, 2021 until June 30th, 2022 as follows. Level 1 services for 2 students at a cost of $2,200 each, and level 3 services for 1 student at a cost of $14,600. Under letter B, out-of-district placements, requesting the board approves the out-of-district placements for the 2021-22 school year as attached. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Llewellyn. Quinn, can I have a motion to approve Section 14, Special Education, letters A and B?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Whittington. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Bromhall?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Going on to Section 15, Policy, Mr. Capello.
Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater. Seeking the board to approve on first reading the following policies and regulations. They are listed by policy and regulation number in the agenda, and they are attached in public comments, or in public section as well.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mr. Bromhall, can I have a motion to approve Section 15, Policy, letter A?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Trompe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Quinn?
Aye. 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 Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Moving on to Section 16, Business and Finance, Mr. Egan.
Okay, thank you. Under letter A, grants, that the board approves the submission and approval of the 2022 ARP-IDEA consolidated grant application as attached. Under B, finance, we have two items. That the board approves the budget objectives for the 2022-23 school year as attached, and that the board approves the tentative budget calendar for the 2022-23 school year, again as attached. Under operations, we have a number of county facility approvals for the 2021-22 school year. 1A is the alternate bathroom plan. That the board approves the renewal of the alternate bathroom plan for the Student Activity Center, the SAC program, at the Administration Building for the 2021-22 school year. Item 1B, that the board approves the renewal of the application for dual use of educational space for E276 reading classroom at the Cinnaminson High School for the 2021-22 school year. 1C, that the board approves the renewal of the application for dual use of educational space for the following rooms at New Albany School for the 2021-22 school year, and that will be the Learning Cottage Room 03 for basic skills. 1D, that the board approves the renewal of the application for dual use of educational space for the following rooms at the Eleanor Rush Intermediate School for the 2021-22 school year. Room number 145, which is for an MD and small group third grade resource class. Learning Cottage Room number 203 for basic skills reading class. And room number 120, which is also the library for small group instruction for speech. Letter 1E, that the board approves the renewal of the application for dual use of educational space for the room at Memorial School, and that is room 138 for small group instruction, and that will be for speech as well. We have two donations this evening that the board approves and accepts with appreciation. The following donation: a flag on behalf of the 177th Fighter Wing of the New Jersey National Guard, and that was from the U.S. Air Force Captain Brian McSweeney and Airman First Class Samuel Samadio to New Albany School. Little Tykes playset, and that was from Mr. and Mrs. Scarpitti, and that was to the Memorial School Bright Eyes and preschool program. Under letter D, contracts, that the board approves the settlement agreement and release as attached. Item 2, that the board approves the contract with T&M Associates for providing professional engineering and environmental services with a licensed site remediation professional to manage, supervise, and perform services required for the removal and replacement of the underground fuel tanks. Number 3, that the board approves the reappointment of Dr. Rupert Hartman as a school physician for grades pre-K through 12 at the annual fee of $18,778 for the 2021-22 school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Mrs. Quinn, can I have a motion to approve Section 16, Business and Finance, letters A through D?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Trompe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Bromhall?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Moving on to section 17, other business. Mr. Capello.
Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater. Under letter A, memorandum of agreement with law enforcement, seeking the board to approve the Uniform State Memorandum of Agreement, or MOA, between the Cinnaminson School District and the Cinnaminson Police Department for the 2021 school year. There, number 2, seeking the board to approve the creation of a law enforcement unit as a part of the Uniform State MOA between the Cinnaminson School District and the Cinnaminson Police Department for the 2021-2022 school year. And under number 3, seeking the board to approve a memorandum of understanding regarding live stream between education and law enforcement units for the 2021-22 school year. I'm going to ask the board to table item B, goals and objectives, as that is an in-progress item. Under letter C, seeking the board to take action denying CEA grievance 2021-02 and 2021-03. Mrs. Fitzwater.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mrs. Woodington, can I have a motion to approve section 17, items A and C?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Bromhall?
Aye.
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 I have to abstain from C, but for A.
Aye. Motion passed. Moving on to section 18, public comment on other matters.
All right, at this time, we would just ask that any members of the public who would like to speak, we have a microphone set up over there so we could hear you, but if you could please, per board policy, just state your name and address for the record, and we would welcome public comment at this time. Please.
Hi, you said name and address?
Yeah, if you don't mind, we have a mic set up just so everyone can hear you clearly.
Hello. Hi, I'm Chelsea Bompozniak. My address is 2112 Chestnut Hill Drive. I'm a junior at the high school, and I would like to talk about the issue of having outside guests attend our homecoming, which when I asked teachers at the high school, I was told came right from the board. So the first thing I have is a petition that I made about a week ago, which I realize now is kind of hard to actually show you all, but it's on change.org, and I have 349 signatures on it. I didn't want to put pressure on anyone, but rather I wanted to show that over a third of the school is on board with this idea, and I wanted to make it clear that I wouldn't advocate for something so strongly or expect you to change anything for just one person. Obviously, I am in favor of changing the homecoming rules or policies to allow outside guests, and I would like to start by sharing some rationale behind my stance. First, the recent relaxation of COVID regulation in our schools. Sports seasons are practicing and playing away games as usual. There are no longer one-way hallways. Temperatures are no longer checked in the morning. Lunch is now seeing entire grades of students eating in the same gym. And with the introduction of smart lunches, I eat with new people every day with no more method for contact tracing. I'm not criticizing these changes, as they're all now deemed safe and within state guidelines, and have made school feel much more normal after the last year and a half. I only bring it up because if those changes have been deemed safe under state guidelines, then I believe allowing guests at homecoming when there are currently no restrictions or limitations of any kind on outside gatherings in New Jersey should fall into the same category. And I would also like to mention sporting events, specifically football games. This year, outsiders are allowed back into football games with no limited tickets, including the homecoming game. This game is a similar situation to the dance this year. Tons of people from other schools, as well as alumni, will all be packed together in the stands with no masks or social distancing, and the homecoming game actually typically has a larger turnout than the actual dance itself. Again, this is obviously okay because state guidelines have deemed it to be safe outdoors. But with that in mind, the student body believes it's fair for outsiders to be invited to the dance as well, since it is also outside, and would be an extremely similar crowd of people at both events. For example, my boyfriend, who graduated last year, will be allowed to attend the homecoming game, come in close contact with all the people who will be at the dance, but theoretically would still not be allowed into the dance itself. The last reason I'm going to share is probably the least important in the sense of rule changing, but for the last 2 years now, dances have been flat out canceled. And I know a lot of people who didn't get to go with their significant other or even get to go to one themselves at all. That probably seems like a trivial issue to you, and it probably will seem like a trivial issue to us eventually too, but right now it's something that gets me down when I think about it. I'm confident that being able to bring dates, friends, and let some alumni get the homecoming they didn't get last year would boost morale, give a little buffer to our mental and emotional health after being thrown back into the school year this fall, and it would leave everybody happy. I'm a huge believer that the student body really needs as much happy as we can get right now. Of course, everyone is so grateful we get anything at all, even if it is atypical. But if there's a way to normalize this experience even further and do it within state guidance, I think that would be ideal. So the suggestion I brought with me tonight is requiring either proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test within 24 hours of the dance for all outside guests. This, combined with the fact that it's outside, should allow it to be completely COVID safe and still as close to normal as possible. Thank you for your time and hearing me out, and I would love to talk about it.
Thank you, Chelsea. I appreciate that. And it's an interesting phenomenon when things, when I get a phone call from one of the administrators or teachers or someone in my office who bring about a problem. I always appreciate when they bring a solution as well. So my compliments on presenting before the board in such an articulate way and also bringing a solution with the problem. So this typically wouldn't be a decision that necessarily would be voted on by the board, but certainly we value the board's input. But what I'd like to commit to is to continue the conversation, perhaps you and maybe Mr. Gorman as well, that we can continue the conversation sometime this week so we can talk about some of the things that you suggested. Sound good? Great, thank you for being here. Any other members of the public who'd like to comment?
Hello, good evening. My name's Ashley Neild. I live at 1012 Highland Avenue. It's a small concern, but for me, kind of a big deal. I have a first grade student at New Albany School who struggled immensely last year, and I get emotional talking about it because it was just so hard for her, for me, and we pushed through. We have made it to first grade, barely. Some of her skills are still on a kindergarten level. We are trying, we are doing the best we can. My husband and I paid for tutoring all year last year out of our own pocket. I requested testing, we did everything that we needed to do, and now she's sick. She's sick, she has COVID symptoms. Hopefully she doesn't have COVID, but my issue is with the policies that seem to be in place while in quarantine. I called the school this morning, took all the steps needed to get her set up, ready. We were ready, dressed, expecting to be able to join online with her class. And we're told that because she doesn't have a positive COVID test or a direct positive COVID exposure, that she's not entitled to online education. It is really hard to get a COVID test right now. There are so many employers that are requiring weekly tests for people who are refusing to get vaccinated. For some reason, CVS in our area stopped doing testing altogether. Other places wanted a referral from our doctor's office. She's sick. I made an appointment at the Palmyra Pharmacy despite their list that says it has to be 12 and older. They did test her today, but what if I couldn't get a test for several days? That's 3 to 4 days out of school and then waiting for the results to come back. Potentially, she could be missing a week or more of school just to get a negative COVID test to come back to school. And for my child, a week right now is a really long time to miss her education. It's too much. We're already starting the year in a deficit despite our best efforts, but she can't get anything. I wasn't allowed to get worksheets, nothing. And I was told it was just a regular sick day, but now we have to wait for COVID results, which I don't have an issue with. I don't have an issue with getting her tested. I don't have an issue with waiting. My issue is I want her to have access to her education in the meantime. She's not allowed to go to school. I've had to take time off from work. I'm a therapist who sees children in school buildings. I know that kids are struggling. I know that they're suffering, but her not being allowed to access the work and then having to go back next week will be hard for her. She's already behind. She already says things like, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I can't keep up. There's all of those issues already there. She already has anxiety about being at school. And I'm a therapist. I can't fix this for her. But I just want her to have access to her education while we're waiting this period out. And in speaking with other parents, I also understand that at New Albany, when children are in quarantine, they're not getting access to their own teacher like the other buildings are doing. I didn't know that either. It's a separate teacher. You know, there are 7 or 8 first grade classrooms this year. They're not all teaching the same thing on the same day, so it's not the same. So I just am bringing this concern to you. You know, I'm not asking for much. Worksheets, something to help her get through, you know, the quarantine period is really all that I'm asking for. I just want you to know that it doesn't make sense. You know, the school nurse said keep her home until we get our test results, so I'm doing that. So technically she's in quarantine, but because our quarantine doesn't involve a positive COVID test or direct exposure to someone with a positive test, she gets nothing. And that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me. So I just wanted to bring that up as a concern, and maybe there can be changes down the line to how that's handled, but for me that stinks. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Null. I appreciate you being here, and I will certainly reach out and follow up with you about your particular situation from my office. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Callista Klein. I live at 2619 Riverton Road. I just want to give some perspective as a family who has been hit by one of my children picking up COVID from school first week. So quite an accomplishment. And then now dealing with him getting, my first son getting it, and then it dominoing to my other children, and along the lines of the remote curriculum and instruction. I was proactive when my son had a couple of symptoms. I quick tested him at home, and he popped the positive COVID test. He was sick for the day. He was done. He wasn't attending any classes. He was out of it. His younger brother and sister, who I then kept home because now I know that they've been exposed, I was told that the nurse would get in touch with me, who didn't get in touch with me until 10:30 at night, and that they couldn't have access to remote instruction until they had been officially quarantined. So they were fine. They were ready to go. They could do school, but they weren't allowed to get immediate access, which in the scheme of things, one day is fine, but now my middle son, I mean, he's gonna be 3 weeks because he didn't get a positive test until over a week after my first son. So now he's out until October 4th, September 15th to October 4th that he's out. And my daughter is out until September 30th. And just looking at, because I know you guys are working, I know that the schools are trying their best, but especially at New Albany, Rush was fantastic with the remote learning. Like, they were on the ball, they were dealing with a quarantine class, those teachers were on it. New Albany, it's a little bit more piecemeal, and it's not a consistent schedule each day for one class, and I understand they're adapting, they're changing. My daughter's class has now had 2 meetings where we sat logging in or trying to log in for 35 minutes, and the meeting just never opened up. And I was told, oh, I'm so sorry, our schedule switched. And, you know, we moved writing. So meanwhile, my daughter has now not had writing, and she sat there trying to get into a meet for 35 minutes. Which I think everyone would agree, if you had a student knocking at the door for 35 minutes and you just ignored them, that would be unacceptable. There needs to be some sort of standard for what's being provided. The extra teacher at New Albany is a great idea. Neither of my kids have gotten any extra assignments outside of their live time. Maybe a Scholastic reader for my daughter. and 1 assignment a day for my son. So it's great to have that extra teacher, but if the teachers aren't providing additional work, then the extra teacher doesn't seem to matter much. When those days when she missed writing, my daughter tried to log into the extra remote teacher, and I said, hey, her writing never happened. And the teacher said, well, they only work with assignments that they're given. She couldn't just log in to get a full writing lesson for Mrs. Rowan. So my concern that I just want to share with the board so that it can be addressed for kids in the future. I get it. We are like the first ones going through this. So teachers are working hard. They're doing what they have to do, but making sure that they have some sort of knowledge of a standard. Is there a standard amount of time that they have to have the kids on meets? Are there lessons that they have to make? Are there, what's that? Because my daughter's seeing a schedule with these different activities that then she doesn't have access to. And she's already said, like, well, I think my teacher just forgot about me. Like, she doesn't care that I'm here. It's like, well, no, she does. I know that there's something else going on. But for a 6-year-old who's logging in even today, 17 minutes to get on the math meet, for a little child, 17 minutes of clicking, you cannot start a meeting by yourself. You cannot start a meeting by yourself. It is frustrating for me as an adult. For her, it's angering, and then she's checked out of the meet before it's even started. So I just wanted to bring those concerns, and hopefully moving forward, hopefully we won't be quarantined again, but for other kids that are getting quarantined, just to make sure that they have access to that remote instruction and that there's a standard so that they can kind of know what they're going to get. Thank you.
Ms. Fine, I appreciate it. All right. Any other members of the public? Ms. Fitzwater, I believe that is it.
All right, we are going to comments from the board. Mrs. Whittington?
It is great to hear the students are back in school and fully involved in their activities. Congratulations to the administrators, teachers, and tech department in creating successful virtual back-to-school nights. The planning and hard work is appreciated. We would like to welcome our high school representative, Allie Nieder, to Cinnaminson Board of Education. Thank you for your donations. Thank you, Chelsea, for sharing your viewpoints. Thanks to the parents who shared their educational concerns during our opening weeks of school. Your patience is much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Whittington. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 19th at 7 p.m. right back here at the middle school. And with that, I will ask Mrs. Trompe for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Whittington. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.